Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at proportions. So proportions can be used to solve ratio and rate problems. So recall that a ratio is a comparison of two or more things with the same units, and a rate is a comparison of just two things with different units. And just like with two things in a ratio, we write them as fractions. And then a proportion is an equation where we have a fraction equal to a fraction. So when solving ratio and rate problems, we'll be given three of the four unknowns of a proportion. So two fractions means two denominators, two numerators, so four numbers basically. So we'll set up the fractions so that the unknown value is in the numerator because those are much easier to solve than when the variable is in the denominator. So we're going to set up things that look like x over 4 equals 3 over 8. And then we want to solve this, so we're going to multiply both sides by the denominator of the unknown variable. So we'd multiply both sides by 4, so x would be 3/8 times 4. And then we would simplify it to 3 over 2. You always want to leave the answer exact unless the units don't make sense with it. So if you have a word problem, you know where the numbers are coming from, your answer should always make sense with that in mind. So for instance, if the units are dollars, we need to write the answer using 2 decimal places. If the answer is, say, people, then our answer needs to be an integer because you can't have half of a person. Okay, so you always want to keep that in mind. Does my answer make sense? And that includes, rounding issues. So for our first example, Carl can read 4 books in 6 months. At this rate, how many books could he read in 9 months? So we're going to set up our proportion. We're comparing books to months, so this would technically be a rate as opposed to a ratio, but it's not really a huge deal here. And what we're looking for is books, so I'm going to put books on top and then months on the bottom. So we have B over 9, B being the number of books that we're looking for in 9 months, and comparing that to the 4 books in 6 months. So B over 9 equals 4 over 6. We'll multiply both sides by 9, and 4/6 times 9 equals 6 books. For every $5 that Ben makes, Althea makes 4. If Ben makes $16, how much does Althea make? So we're comparing dollars to dollars, so this would be a ratio. And we're looking at Ben and Althea. So we want to know how much Althea makes, so we're going to set up our proportion to have Althea on top and Ben on the bottom. So our unknown, I'm going to call it A for Althea, over the 16. So that is this part. And then it's 4 to 5 because Althea is on top and she makes 4. Ben makes 5. So A over 16 equals 4 over 5. You always want to double check that your units are correct. So Althea is on top for both of them. Ben's is on the bottom for both of them. We're going to multiply both sides by 16. And then again, this is going to be a dollar amount. So we need to make sure that we have the units, so dollars, and that we have 2 decimal places. So you don't want to leave something like 12.8 because that doesn't make sense. Mike drives 45 miles per hour. At this speed, how long will it take him to travel 120 miles? So it only looks like we have 2 numbers here, but in reality we do have 3 because 45 miles per hour is really 45 miles per 1 hour. So it is a rate, it's showing how many miles per 1 hour. So we are looking for time. So we're looking for a number of hours. So I'm actually going to flip this fraction over so that we have time on top and miles on the bottom. So my 45 miles per hour becomes 1 over 45 because again I want time on top and miles on the bottom. And then my 120 is my denominator. I'm using h for hours is my unknown. So we have h over 120 equals 1 over 45. Multiply both sides by 120. And then we get 2.6 repeating hours, so 2.666 forever and ever and ever, or 2 2/3 hours. And that sounds a little weird, right? You wouldn't usually say that in conversation, 2 2/3 hours. So I'm going to translate that, and that is 2 hours and 40 minutes, right? A third of an hour would be 20 minutes, so 2/3 of an hour would be 40 minutes. So 2 hours and 40 minutes. Our last example, Shane and Deborah are splitting profits for their shared company in the ratio 6-5. If Deborah makes $4,500 this quarter in profits, what is Shane making? So we've got Shane to Deborah is 6/5. We are looking for how much Shane is making. So I do want Shane to go on top. So that 6-5 will give me the fraction of 6/5. And then I'm going to use S for what Shane's making, and then Deborah's is 4,500. So S over 4,500 equals 6/5. Again, double check Shane on top for both, Deborah on bottom for both. Multiply both sides by 4,500. And Shane is making $5,400 in profit when Deborah makes $4,500. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.